To finish up my router table build, I built a router lift. A router lift is really handy because it allows me to adjust the height of the bit from above the table. You can buy commercially made router lifts, but they're very expensive, you know, $400 maybe, and I didn't want to do that. So I found this one in Shop Notes magazine, issue 121. If you're interested in building this, I suggest you get that issue because it has real detailed plans in there on how to build it. This lift will hold just about any kind of router. It just clamps in here, and then this rod will turn from above the table and lower and raise it up to wherever you need it. For the side posts, I've laminated together 2 pieces of 3/4 inch hard maple and cut them down to size. These are going to be the runners that run inside of them, and these are 3/4 inch maple. Now I just need to cut a dado in here in which to hold these. So I sanded down the groove I just made and the insides of these runners so that it fits snugly. It'll move, but there's not a lot of play in it. Now what I've done is I've set my table saw blade to a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to take these pieces and just cut a V shape in them. And that gives me that V notch all the way through each of these. I've got 6 of these little set screws that I need to put into those runners, and rather than using a tap to make the threads for them to sit in, Shop Notes gives this little tip to take one of these and kind of make your own tap just by first filing a groove in it. Alright, so I've got now a pretty deep groove in there. I'm going to give this a shot and see if it works. So to start with, all I'm going to do is drill a hole that is slightly smaller in diameter than my set screw. Shop Notes describes this procedure a little bit differently, but what I'm going to do is take that set screw that I just cut the groove in, and I've got a hex head bit for my drill. I'm going to set my drill on a very low speed and just slowly start working this down. So I've got my board clamped down, and I'm just taking this down a little bit at a time and then backing it up to get rid of the sawdust that's in there and going back down. So I guess really the only trick to this is to just really take it slowly. You don't want to make a hole, you want to, you know, cut threads into this. So let's see how that worked out. Yeah, and I've got some nice threads. And I can test it out with my regular set screw. Let's see. Yeah. Nice. For the base of the lift, I've cut out this 5-sided shape, and I've marked holes where I'm going to put 5/16 inch lag screws into the posts. And I've marked a location where I need to put a 1-inch hole for a guide bushing. I've turned the whole piece upside down, and I've clamped it together, and I've put in a couple of 2x4 spacer blocks to keep it nice and square. Since I've drilled those holes all the way through, now I can go ahead and tighten down these lag screws. Alright, I got the lag screws all tightened up. Now I can remove the clamps and make sure I got everything nice and square. Okay, so there's the base of the router and the posts. I've got this little 3/4 inch diameter inside measurement bushing that I'm going to put in here that the threaded rod can sit into. Shop Notes suggest using a bronze bushing, but man, those things are way too expensive, so I'm just using this. So that'll fit together just like that, and that'll be the runner. And I've ripped that down to its final width. I glued together 3 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood to make this big thick block that is going to be the carriage assembly. This is what's going to clamp my router and hold it. What I need to do now is cut a couple of notches that the runners can fit into. Those notches are going to be to hold these V-shaped runners, and I'm going to glue those in like that. I've got a piece of 3/4 inch threaded rod that I need to make a hex head on it so that, you know, a socket can fit into it. This is going to be what lifts and lowers the router. So what I'm doing is just grinding away to make that shape. So now the 1/2 inch socket will fit on like that. So this carriage assembly now will drop down into those V grooves and slide like that. But what I need to do is I gotta figure out where to put the hole in here where this rod is going to line up. I'm going to attach this 3/4 inch coupler to the end of my threaded rod. Then I'm going to drop this side down into that hole and lock it in place with another nut. Now with that in place, I can drop this carriage down on top of that. And up where this coupling meets, I'll just trace around it. So by connecting those corners, now I can find the center point to drill a 1 inch hole. This should fit right down like that. Now inside of this hole, there's going to be that coupling, and what I did with the coupling was I rounded it all over just on my disc sander to fit inside that hole, and I'll just epoxy that in. Now I can cut that carriage block into 2 pieces. I've cut these 2 shapes out for the 2 halves of the clamp, and now I just need to drill a hole all the way through here that I can put the bolt to clamp them together. I've put the threaded rod through the base and I've attached it with 2 lock nuts so it'll just spin like that, and threaded it through the coupling, and I've put on a bolt all the way through both sides of the clamp with knobs here. My router will fit up right between these 2 clamps and then tighten this down to hold it. To raise and lower it, I'll just take my 1/2 inch socket and spin this around. Once it's mounted into my router table, I can fine tune it with these set screws here and an Allen wrench, and what those will do is press this center column back and forth to allow me to get it completely square with the top of my table. The router lift is done. Now I can finally drill the holes into my insert plate, and I want to be really careful about where I drill those holes. So what I've done is I just made a plywood template of my insert plate and put the holes and tested them to be exactly sure where they're going to be. I needed to make a hole for the lift rod, and the whole thing is going to be mounted on the side, tilted sideways a little bit, so that that hole is a little bit off to the right hand side. And with that, my router table is finally done. I took some time to level out my insert plate, and I'll still need to tweak that router lift a little bit, and I still haven't installed this door onto the front. So thanks for watching. I don't have a video next Friday. It's going to be on next Sunday. Very special video, so tune in for that. Talk to you later.